please raise your hand, and we will let you ask your question. And please, when you do so, just state your name and the name of the media that you're representing. We request you that each representative limit themselves up to one question. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding about that. Um, if you have any questions right now, you're here on the floor with the press media, please.
Hi, good evening for both of you. I have a question for the coach regarding the fact that most of the people, the press, and other teams see you as one of the favorite teams to win this first Gold Cup. Do you see yourself and your team as a favorite one, not only to win the group, but to win the cup? And to Jessie, I would like to ask you, what are your expectations and the expectations of your teammates as well regarding your participation in this cup, and if you see yourself and your team winning this first Gold Cup? Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to apologise to keep you all waiting. Obviously, we came straight from training and traffic and things. But yeah, I think, listen, we have high expectations of ourselves. But what we do know at the highest level in the women's game right now, I think the World Cup showed that, is, you know, the margins are very fine. And so on any day, anything can happen. But our own expectations and standards will be that, you know, we deliver, we perform. And we'll do that, and we'll grow through the tournament and be ready for whenever, you know, big games come our way. We need to deliver. So absolutely, our standards and our expectations are high, but knowing that this is football and anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think similar to what Bev said, for us it's just about nailing down our standards and what we can control as a team. I think looking at the group stage, wanting to keep a clean sheet and hopefully grow throughout the tournament. But yeah, for sure, I think there's lots of good teams in the tournament, and we're just excited to play some good games and get some different opposition.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, Carlos Nava with ESPN International. For both of you, what are your thoughts on this group and El Salvador in particular?
Yeah, I think this group, it'll throw three different challenges our way. I think you've got different styles, right? South American, as well as, you know, CONCACAF region. I think what we've seen from El Salvador is they can be dangerous. They scored. they can score, and we have to respect that. I think all three teams will be very well organised, and that'll pose its own threat for us in terms of how we can break that down. But we absolutely respect all three opponents in front of us. And I think, again, as everything's shown probably in the last 12 months, teams now, doesn't matter where you're ranked, I think the margins have really come forward. So we'll be expecting a game where El Salvador will come out and give it everything they've got, and we'll do the same.
Hello, Francisco Torres from El Gráfico de El Salvador. What players do you saw in the match against El Salvador, Guatemala on Saturday that like you most, and that ones that you have to pay attention because your team has to don't make these players to play in the match tomorrow? Thank you.
Yeah, I think overall we've seen a collective effort, but I think obviously you have to talk about the likes of Seren and Fisher. You know, the link-up play there, I think that was critical, but I think you've also got some wingers and fullbacks that look to join in too. So I think we have to be aware of that threat and how they might link up. And, you know, I felt that when they played the ball in, that sort of direct play as well can be dangerous. So we have to be prepared for that, and we will be. But yeah, absolutely. I think they've got some individual flair that I think you always get with any team you play, but I think we will be ready for that.
Great. Do we have any more questions here in the audience?
Alex Paz, La Selecta magazine. My question is for both of you. Some of the players for El Salvador, they're American-born, and their style of play is more, I guess, closer to the Canadian, what the Canadian team is used to. I was wondering, how do you plan to not counteract, but maybe deal with some of the nuances that you might find with this different Salvadoran squad? Thank you.
You can go.
Yeah, I think what we have seen is an aggressiveness. You know, I think, you know, Jessie's a midfielder, for example. You know, we've been working on dealing with that amount of high level and pressure and dealing with that. And yeah, I think that blend you can see, you can feel, but I think we also have to work on what we do and what we do well, and we'll do that whoever is in front of us, because I think ultimately the end in mind is where we want to be on the 25th of July, but knowing that there's some silverware to be won in this tournament. But I think we have worked on some of that tendency, the aggressiveness. I don't think they're a team that's going to fully, you know, sit off, and obviously they'll want to defend well, but I think there's some individual tendencies, like you say, of a North American style to be aggressive, and we're prepared for that.
Do you have any more questions? We're moving on to the reporters joining us via virtually. Please, Neil Davidson, go ahead and ask your question at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think obviously we all learned some lessons along the way, probably in the last 12 to 18 months, and I think I can feel them lessons, because what I would say in the environment, you know, I know that news broke today, but you wouldn't have known that, and I think that tells you that this team is currently focused on what's in front of them. There's been no side conversations. It's all been about what's going to happen on a football pitch, and so I think from that perspective, very much here to talk about and focus on the game, but knowing there's some wider issues that, you know, off the field are being dealt with in the relevant areas. But absolutely, I feel like the group are very focused and ready to get after this Gold Cup.
Thank you.
Next question, Joseph DiPolito. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Got it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Neil kind of alluded to this. What are some of the biggest issues facing women's soccer in Canada right now, beyond what Neil mentioned and beyond the lack of a domestic league? And how important is this tournament in trying to help resolve those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I can only talk to, obviously, we're here to inspire a nation. I think we've done that consistently at Olympic Games, and, you know, in many ways these players have made this country, or made Canada stop and you know, inspired a whole future generation of players. And I think this is where this tournament, just like the Olympics around the corner, is there to do. I think obviously we can talk about the professional league, and for me personally, as a head coach of a senior team, that's going to help more young players come through, where they play meaningful competition every week and get more of a professional environment, and staffing and everything that goes around having a professional league. But I think, you know, those are two critical things. And obviously, you know, we need to continue to build our level of investment and funding, and that comes from growing the game too. So, you know, in that respect, I think we're very much on the now, and how this team can go and inspire a nation this summer.
Next question, please, John Molinaro.
Thank you. Hi, Bev. With regards to the captaincy, you had several different options. You know, there's a good core of veteran players on this team, but you opted to select Jessie. I'm just wondering, maybe you could just sort of speak to that sort of decision-making process. What was it that tipped it in Jessie's favors as opposed to, say, a Kadisha Buchanan or one of the other veterans?
Yeah, I think obviously the leadership is by committee. You know, you touch on Kadisha. She's part of the leadership group that will be alongside Jessie to lead this group forward. I think I also know that, you know, although Jessie might wear an armband, there's a group of players And I know Jessie is the type of captain that will take players with her and, you know, very much a team first captain. And I think that was a big part of it. But I think obviously the Jessie tendency of, you know, respect, humility, stepped up in some big moments for this team. And I think just that lead by example type of leader, it wasn't necessarily what Jessie does over another player. I just felt that in the environment that this team is to some of the values that we need, but very much the likes of Khadija and some of the veterans you talk to, it's going to be a leadership group, lead by committee, and I would say Jessie's done an outstanding job of doing nothing different, and we don't need anything different from Jessie. She leads in the way she leads very authentically, and it's very well received by the group.
Last question, Megan Johnson, please go ahead and ask your question at this point.
Hi, thanks, Megan Johnson, TSN. Jessie, question for you. Just want to follow up on what Neil was asking in regards to the lawsuit. I'm not sure what you can speak to, but wondering if you can talk about the timing and how long this has been discussed with the players group, and also what is the mood among the players, concerning was this time last year, as well as dealing with behind the scenes disputes at the She Believes.
Yeah, to be honest, it's something that's being dealt with in the courts, and so I think from a player's perspective, we're not going to comment on it right now. But I think just reiterating what Bev said, the mood in camp is really good, and we feel really good as a group right now. And yeah, to be honest, it's just not something that's being talked about among the players at this point in camp. So yeah.
We have one last question. Mariam Kurabi, please go ahead and ask your question at this point.
Hi, thank you for your time. Bev, just a question on the fitness of the squad. Obviously, it was announced that Sydney Collins sustained her fractured ankle injury. Can we get an update on how severe that is and just the fitness and the availability of the squad for tomorrow?
Yeah, obviously, you know, my thoughts are with Sydney. I think, you know, my heart broke in that moment where we knew that she was out, because she's been an unbelievable addition to this team coming in, you know, after missing out on the World Cup. She's really stepped up as a young player and grabbed hold of what was in front of her. So from that perspective, you know, we're gutted for Sid and right behind Sydney. In terms of, you know, fitness of the squad, obviously we're in a pre-season phase for half of the group, and obviously group coming in from Europe, and so we're balancing a lot of that and minute availability and that side of things. So yeah, it's going to be a balancing act, I think, definitely short term. But you know, Bianca always does an outstanding job when she puts on the shirt for Canada, and she was a very natural replacement for Sydney, really comfortable in this environment too. So yeah, gutted for Sydney, but absolutely I think going into tomorrow, there's some players that can step up and deliver. I respect and value every player, and trust them to go in and do a job.
So we've come to the end of this press conference. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for to the reporters that are joining us virtually, and thank you so much for being here, Coach Bev Priestman and Jessie Fleming. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thanks.
Canada.
Thank you.